Learning objectives. In this chapter, the user would learn the following in detail. Benefits of effective listening, hearing versus listening, a model of listening, gender differences and listening, assessing differences and listening, improving your listening skills, how to talk so that others will listen, and body language. Introduction. Listening is considered an important tool in business communication simply because people spend a good amount of time listening to their bosses, peers, or subordinates. Listening is the most frequent and important type of on-the-job communication. Studies indicate that on an average, personnel at all levels spend more time on listening than on speaking and writing. Listening can improve work quality and boost productivity. This unit discusses how listening can help an individual to update and revise his/her collection of facts, skills, and attitudes, as well as improve their speaking skills. It lists the barriers to listening, the best approaches to listening, how to be a better listener, and what speakers can do to ensure and encourage effective listening. Assessing differences and listening. Research suggests women and men listen differently and to different things. But the question remains if the identified differences are straightforward, clear-cut, or even black and white. Actually, they might be grey and white. Our brains are composed of both grey matter and white matter. Grey matter is considered to represent information processing centers, while white matter is considered to represent with networking those processing centers. The amount of grey matter is 6 times greater in the brains of the male research participants, while the women participating in the study had 10 times the amount of white matter the men did. These disparities were identified in genders with comparable intelligence. A heavier reliance on grey matter may assist men with localized tasks, while increased white matter may help women excel at interpreting and assimilating, a skill thought to aid language skills. Sides of brain. Women appear to use both sides of the brain, while men appear to rely more heavily on one side while listening. Women give out a lot of listening signals, but the signals they give have different meanings for men and women, consistent with the speaker-audience alignment. Women use "yeah" to mean "I am with you," "I follow," whereas men tend to say "yeah" only when they agree. The opportunity for misunderstanding is very obvious. When a man is confronted with a woman who has been saying "yeah, yeah, yeah," and then turns out not to agree, he may conclude that she has been insincere or that she was agreeing without really listening. When a woman is confronted with a man who does not say "yeah" or much of anything else, she may conclude that he hasn't been listening. The men's style is more literally focused on the message level of the talk, while the women's is focused on the relationship or meta-message level. On the contrary, we are more aware of different types and styles of communication, not just the significant differences between the major gender legs. We can foster better conversations and mutual understanding, and suffer less unnecessary confusion, hurt, and dissatisfaction. To a man who expects a listener to be quietly attentive, a woman giving a stream of feedback and support will seem to be talking too much for a listener. To a woman who expects a listener to be effective and enthusiastic in showing interest, attention, and support, a man who listens silently will not seem to be listening at all, but rather to have checked out of the conversation. Benefits of effective listening. Listening is defined as the process of accurately receiving and interpreting messages from the speaker in the communication process. Listening is essentially the key to effective communication. The inability to effectively listen and interpret messages can lead to misunderstanding. Communication process breaks down here, and the sender of the message can easily become frustrated or irritated. A good listener is not only popular everywhere, but after a while he knows something. Wilson Misner. Benefits of listening in the workplace. A. Employee's perspective. For the employee, listening. Number 1. Enhances knowledge. Good listening skills make an employee more competent and capable regardless of his position. The more an employee gets information out of meetings, instructions and reports provided to him, the more efficient and successful he will be at completing his tasks. By listening effectively, he is able to grasp the exact information he needs in order to execute his work without committing mistakes. Also, as a result, listening enriches know-how and knowledge. It also helps an employee in fulfilling his job requirements through progressive learning. 2. Ensures successful conversation. Effective listening ensures that an employee becomes a better team player. If employees take the time to listen to each other, to others' suggestions, warnings, advice, and informational inputs, it allows them and their departments to coordinate better. Employees can avoid misunderstandings and build profitable relationships among workers. Furthermore, effective listening reduces risk of interpersonal conflicts in a workplace. It creates an environment of peace, respect, which facilitates enduring success for the whole enterprise. 3. Saves time and money. It reduces risk of misunderstanding and mistakes that could be very damaging to the business. This saves a lot of time and money for all departments by forming a collaborative workforce. Collaborative workforce saves the trouble of having to redo or start all over again just because the directives given were misunderstood, thus ensuring that employees neither waste time nor overshoot the budget allocated to the project. Leader, boss's perspective. Proactive approach. Detect upcoming problems and solve them before they occur. A leader or an entrepreneur should always be attentive to what employees have to say, irrespective of the mechanism, the processes, or the project. In the workplace, bosses are the first ones to spot flaws and come up with suggestions for amelioration. It is up to the manager to grasp and distinguish necessary and useful information and take necessary actions. In the same perspective, with good ears, he enables to make better decisions and to discover more about all aspects of the company. Confers respect and trust. By listening to staff member, a leader shows great respect and care to them. As a result, he gains the trust and esteem of workers and achieves referent power. As an appreciated leader, he gets people to open up and is able to collect useful information about them and their capabilities. Enhances motivation and encouragement. Listening gives a leader the power and ability to encourage and motivate employees. Moreover, a boss who listens stimulates his subordinates in reaching their maximal potential and attain success. He imbibes a level of commitment in people and the feeling of membership. Sometimes, a boss has to only listen to his team, thus bringing cohesion to the group. Bosses can also help disintegrate misunderstanding and ensure that his team works towards the same goal. Better negotiations. A leader is entitled to negotiation throughout his day. When parties are more focused on imposing their ideas and getting approval for their suggestions and propositions, they miss important information, that is, the underlying demands and offers of the other group. The meeting can continue on for the interlocutors to realize at the end that they did not manage to come to an agreement. Knowing how to listen effectively keeps negotiators from ignoring information offered by the opponent, which they will be able to use against them and get their way. Customer's perspective. Strengthen customer relationships and facilitate improvement of products and services. By putting in place a system to collect customers' feedback on the usage of a product or a service. This ensures that customers know that their opinion matters the most, thus helping companies gain their loyalty. Furthermore, the suggestions, critiques, and experience are used to ameliorate the products and services and innovate. Benefits of listening in the classroom. A. Student's perspective. Effective listening contributes to a student's progress, and the immediate and observable advantages of it are: enriches knowledge, allows to sort, select, and retain essential information. B. Teacher's perspective. Teacher has the responsibility of guiding and instructing students. So when he listens to the students, he is able to uncover areas of misunderstanding, identify students who need extra help, improve teaching skills because the instructor learns the method to which students respond better. Body language. Body language is defined as the most important and obvious kind of non-verbal communication, where thoughts, intentions, or feelings are expressed by physical behaviors. Physical behaviors includes facial expressions, body posture, gestures, eye movement, touch, and the use of space. Kinesics is defined as the study of interpretations of human actions. Body language must not be confused with sign language, as sign languages are full languages similar to spoken languages and have their own complex grammar systems, as well as being able to exhibit the fundamental properties that exist in all languages. Body language, on the other hand, does not have a grammar and must be interpreted broadly, instead of having an absolute meaning corresponding with a certain movement. Body language is not a sign language and is simply termed as a language due to popular culture. In a community, there are agreed upon interpretations of particular behavior. Interpretations may vary one country to another or from one culture to another. On this note, there is controversy if body language is universal. Body language, a subset of non-verbal communication, complements verbal communication in social interaction. In fact, some researchers conclude that non-verbal communication accounts for the majority of information transmitted during interpersonal interactions. It helps to establish the relationship between two people and regulates interaction, but can be ambiguous. Hence, it is crucial to accurately read body language to avoid misunderstanding in social interactions. Characteristics that define confident people include: posture, standing tall with shoulders back; eye contact, solid with a smiling face; gestures with hands and arms, purposeful and deliberate; speech, slow and clear; tone of voice, moderate to low. The importance of body language. Humans are social beings and they need company of others. To communicate, we use spoken and written language. However, We can also communicate without words. This kind of communication can tell us something about the relationship between people. Often, this non-verbal communication is more important than getting the content of the message across. Meta-communication is thus defined as the process of understanding the relationship between people without they actually communicating with each other. Communicating about communication. Words are inadequate. When we connect with a person, we also have to make it clear to each other how the content of a spoken message needs to be interpreted. How we do this says something about the relationship we have with the other person or think we have anyway. Often words are inadequate for this purpose. For instance, we do not tell each other that easily how we feel about each other or how the words of a message need to be interpreted. To make the meaning of our words clear, we use body language. Body language is a language without spoken words and is therefore called non-verbal communication. We use body language all the time. For instance, looking someone in the eyes means something different than not looking someone in the eyes. In contact with others, it is just not possible to be not communicating something. Subconsciously. Often, body language is a subconscious reaction of a person. Yet body language we use often to a large extent decides the quality of our communication. Therefore, it would be good to become conscious of our own and others' body language. We can learn to consciously use our body language for a purpose, as well as learn to understand and interpret body language of others. It is also important to note that body language has different meanings in various cultures. How we interpret one's body language depends on the situation, the culture, the relationship we have with the person, as well as the gender of the person. This means that there is not one signal that has the same meaning all over the world. This has to be taken into consideration or might land the person in a lot of trouble. Body language is also interlinked with spoken language and behavior of a person. Various body language signs can complement each other to make a particular meaning clear or strengthen the meaning of what we communicate. Some groups have developed a whole specific body language which can be very explicit in its meaning and is used to communicate where the use of words may otherwise be difficult or dangerous. Used to express feelings. One most important aspect of body language is to express feelings. For instance, if we do not like someone, it is often difficult to say that directly to that person. However, we can make it clear through body language. This can be a conscious or a subconscious decision. We may say that we are angry through words, yet our body language may be saying loud and clear that we are not. This can be very confusing for the receiver. Body language is often considered to give out double messages, one message in words and an opposite message through body language. It is also difficult to lie or cover up our feelings through body language. People may give their true feelings away by not being aware of their body language. Research has shown that most people pay more attention to and believe more readily their impression of how a person acts through body language than what is said through words. As a consequence, we tend to doubt or put a question mark behind the spoken words if they do not correspond with the language of the body. The importance of knowing how we communicate. Words only on a smaller extent decide on how we come across to someone. To leave a good impression on someone, it is important to control our body language at least to a certain extent. The person on the receiving end will feel something that is often difficult to describe. difficult to put into words, or difficult to prove what actually was communicated. Haven't we all said at times, "I have a feeling he or she likes me," or something like, "I doubt if what he or she is saying is really the truth"? This type of feeling is called intuition. Body language plays a big role in intuition, as it gives us messages about the other person that we can interpret at an intuitive level. It is therefore necessary to get to know our own body language first. We should learn about it so that we can recognize it in others as well as in ourselves. For this purpose, all the different aspects of body language that we can learn something from will be described next. 10 positive body language tips. Body language is defined as the process in which one communicates non-verbally to another through body movements and gestures. Positive body language can be defined as non-verbal movements and gestures that communicate interest, enthusiasm, and positive reactions to what someone else is saying. How you communicate with your body is important, as research shows that 60% to 90% of communication is non-verbal. To many, body language is considered the most important aspect of communication, as it sends signals to how we are truly feeling. Posture. Keep a relaxed posture when you are sitting or standing. Keep your back straight but not stiff, and let those shoulders relax. This will reinforce the idea that you feel comfortable with your surroundings. 2. Take up space. You do not have to sprawl out completely, but try sitting or standing with your legs apart a bit. This will signify to others that you are comfortable. 3. Lean. Leaning slightly when someone is speaking demonstrates that you are actively listening, while leaning away signals that you are disinterested or hostile to the situation. Arms. Crossing your arms is the visual clue that you are not happy by what is going on around you. Practice hanging your arms comfortably at your side or bringing your hands together in your lap to show others that you are open to what they are communicating. 5. Hands. Using your hands is an easy way to incorporate gestures into your conversation, but be careful not to make it a dance party. Emphasizing words with your hands can lead you to appear more credible and assured. Handshake. The handshake is one of the most important non-verbal communication cues because it can set the mood for the entire conversation. A firm handshake will give you instant credibility, while a weak handshake will make you appear fragile. Take care not to crush the other person's hand, though. Giving someone a death grip will signal to them that you are a bully or overcompensating for something. Number 7. Eye contact. Keep your head up and look the person you are having a conversation with in the eyes, both when they are talking to you and when you are talking to them. There is no need to stare them down, and remember to blink and look away occasionally. Good eye contact lets others know that you are interested in a conversation. Number 8. Affirmative movements. You can show empathy with simple actions of agreement like nodding your head or smiling. These actions let people know that you are on their side and that you can identify with their plight. You can even use laughter when appropriate. 9. Taking notes. Taking notes lets others know that you value what they are saying and that you are engaged in the conversation. Taking notes is not appropriate, though, in every situation. 10. Slower. Take a deep breath, hold it for a second or two, and let it out. Focus on slowing down your speech and body movements a bit. This will make you appear more confident and contemplative. It will also help calm you down if you are nervous. 9 body language no-nos. 1. Looking at the ground while someone is talking to you. This tells the speaker that you are shy or disinterested. 2. Touching your face. Everyone has a little itch they need to scratch now and again, but repeatedly touching your face while speaking with someone is an indication that you are lying. Picking at something. Whether it is one's clothes, notebook, or fingernails, just leave it alone. Picking at something demonstrates boredom and disapproval. At the very least, it communicates the listener is rude. 4. On the edge. Sitting on the edge of your chair will communicate that you are literally on the edge both mentally and physically. You can make others feel more comfortable around you by sitting back in your chair and looking relaxed. When you lean into a conversation to appear engaged, you want to lean with your back and leave your bottom firmly planted toward the back of the chair. 5. Tapping. Do not tap. It is easy as that. Tapping your fingers, feet, or even a pen indicates stress or impatience. 6. Objects in front of you. Did you know that placing an object in front of your body shows resistance and shyness? Place items that you need at your side to show people that you are not hiding behind them. 7. Too close. You want to be too close to someone when you are having a conversation with them, but being in their personal bubble will make them feel uncomfortable and make you look like you do not know basic social cues. 4 feet is the appropriate amount of space to give someone who is not a close, intimate friend. Fake smile. People know when you are faking a smile, so do not even bother trying. A true smile comes from more than just your mouth. It can be seen in your entire face, including your eyes. If you need to smile, try thinking of a happy thought or memory. 9. Over blinking. Blinking is normal, but over blinking is usually a sign of anxiety and nervousness. Practice your blinking habits while looking at yourself in the mirror. Gender differences and listening. Female listening skills and male listening skills. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus is not just the cover of the American bestseller. It is a phrase that we have all heard or said at least once. It is no secret that men and women are different, but it also manifests itself in communication and more precisely in listening. When men and women listen, they do so for different reasons. Their brains try to seek different information from the speaker. Men focus on the facts when women focus on the mood of the communication. Yet these differences might not be as important as we believe. Researchers Canary and House have concluded, after analyzing hundreds of studies, that gender differences in communication are small and inconsistent. It is about 1% of the variance. This makes us question whether sex differences in listening are something we assume or something that is real. While speaking to women, be patient. Women feel the need to express everything in order to provide you with the most information about the situation. Be involved. Women often feel that men don't care about what they are saying due to the lack of reaction. Don't assume. Don't assume what they are saying is not important because the subject is not important to you. If she is taking the time to talk to you about it, she wants you to take the time to listen to her. While speaking to women, be realistic. You can't expect people to always react the way you want them to. If their reaction frustrates you, don't get mad, simply say their reaction confuses you. Stay calm. There is no need to analyze everything the opposite party says. There is not always a double meaning to things. Say what you mean. There is no need to play games or go around the subject. Men can't read your mind, and it is not always so easy to deduct what you want to say from what you actually said. Tips for both genders. Establish ground rules. For example, before starting a serious subject, establish how much time you want to talk about it. This will prohibit certain preventable arguments. Show interest. Women and men are interested by different things. In the end, they both want the other to show a bit of enthusiasm in what they enjoy. Hearing versus listening. Hearing. Accidental, involuntary, effortless. Listening. Focused, voluntary, intentional. Hearing. Hearing is defined as an accidental and automatic response of the brain to sounds that requires no effort. We are surrounded by sounds most of the time. For example, we are accustomed to the sound how to talk so that others will listen. Try to emphasize with the listener. The speaker should make an effort to understand the audience. Speakers can speak to the audience to know how they respond to their ideas. The speaker should be able to think from the audience's point of view. This will give them an idea about the way the presentation is to be made and how it will reach the audience. The speaker can identify the irrelevant and difficult parts of the presentation and try to exclude them or make them easier to understand by putting them more simply. Adjust your delivery. The speaker should ensure that he is audible to all the listeners. He or she can hold the interest of the listeners through voice modulation and a lively presentation. Voice modulation is an important aspect of delivery as a dull monotone induces mental lethargy in the listeners. Utilize feedback. The speaker can get feedback from the audience by paying attention to their verbal and non-verbal cues. Non-verbal cues such as understanding if the audience is looking interested, confused, or bored can help the speaker make the necessary changes to his or her message to tailor it better to the listener's needs. Be clear. The speaker must clearly know the purpose of his presentation. He or she should be clear about the main point that is to be conveyed. If the speaker lacks clarity on what is to be said and why it is to be said, his speech will be full of disconnected and disjointed ideas, making it very difficult for the listeners to pay attention. Be interesting. A speaker cannot hold the listener's interest if he or she is not interested in delivering the speech or presentation. If a speaker is not interested in what he or she is saying, it is very evident and communicates itself immediately to the listeners, dulling their response as well. A lively, stimulating and relevant speech always has a better chance of capturing the audience's attention and receptivity. Improve listening skills. Listening skills are very important in every conversation. Regardless of whether the situation calls for appreciative, critical, discriminative, or active listening, listening skills can be improved through conscious effort. Let us now look at a few measures that help in better listening. Be motivated to listen. It has been noticed that an interest and a resolution to listen attentively to a speaker have improved the listening skills of people. A motivated listener is more alert and active as a receiver. Being motivated to listen is a prerequisite for good listening. A good listener knows how to concentrate in the face of distractions. While listening, it is good to listen for central themes. Be prepared to listen. Basic preparation before listening, such as collecting relevant information about the speaker, helps the listeners to understand and appraise the content better. The preparation might also involve minimizing physical barriers like distance. Such scenarios can be overcome by occupying the front rows. Be alert to all cues. Listeners should pay attention to all cues used during a presentation. The speaker's voice, quality, inflection, emphasis, and body movement can offer vital clues to what he or she feels is most important. Besides, these cues can also give the listeners insight into the emotional content of the speaker's message, and these help in a better and complete understanding of the message. Be objective. Listeners should keep themselves free from being prejudiced while listening. Prejudices influence the thinking of an individual and might force him or her to ignore facts that contradict his or her experiences or beliefs. Listeners have been found to be more receptive when they have an open mind. A listener has to be objective in his listening by not jumping to conclusions before the speaker has finished his point. There should be no judgment made until all the points have been dealt with. Making a judgment earlier on might result in the listener paying less attention to points that do not match with his judgment. An objective approach towards listening can therefore improve the effectiveness of listening. Make good use of the thinking, speaking time difference. Individuals normally think much faster than they speak. Listeners can use this gap to their advantage by mentally summarizing and reviewing the speaker's words. During this process, their focus should be on what the speaker has said rather than on their response to the message. Practice listening. Proficiency in listening, like in any other skill, is the result of conscious effort. Many of the barriers to effective listening can be successfully overcome through practice. Listening to speeches and lectures, even though they do not hold the listener's interest, will help in retaining attention even when the messages are dull or difficult. Use feedback. When listeners give feedback about a speech, it normally helps them in getting more information from the speaker. Feedback about the understanding of the subject in discussion or the lack of it makes the speaker customize his or her presentation style. A speech must basically be judged by its content. However, while giving the feedback, the listener should take care to ensure that it is ambiguous and the speaker receives the message intended. Use verbal and non-verbal cues to encourage the speaker. The verbal and non-verbal cues of listeners can motivate or demotivate a speaker. Non-verbal cues like nodding one's head and establishing eye contact can motivate a speaker to give his or her best. Audience like looking at other objects in the room or looking out through the window when the presentation is being made can be highly demotivating to a speaker. So a listener should make an effort to motivate or encourage the speaker through verbal and non-verbal cues. Models of listening. There are 3 stages in this model. Signal processing. It is the process of transmitting message from the sender to the listener. Literal processing. understanding the words in the message and assessing their probable meaning. Reflective processing. It is defined as the process in which one listens to a message to evaluate its meaning. There are 3 stages in this model, and they can be defined as sensation, a physical feeling caused by one or more of the simulated sense organs. Interpretation, an explanation or establishment of the meaning or significance of the message. Comprehension, grasping or understanding the meaning of the message. Conclusion. In this chapter, we have covered the following in detail: benefits of effective listening, hearing versus listening, a model of listening, gender differences and listening, assessing differences and listening, improving your listening skills, how to talk so that others will listen, and body language.